The Lionesses are back in England after their defeat in the World Cup against Spain. They lost 1-0. And they arrived back, obviously having lost, but they've inspired thousands, I want to say millions of young people and older people, women in particular, to pick up sport, to kind of, strive for the best and really the sky's their limit, right? It's doubly important to note that a lot of adult women now, when they were younger, would have been discouraged from playing football. Girls don't play football. I remember being in school, football was just not something girls played. Sometimes I scratch my head trying to remember why it was the case. I never really saw women playing football, but that was the cultural norms then. So how far is it that we've moved? That now, on church on Sunday, church was half empty because everyone was at home watching football. So that's where we are now. However, not everyone's sort of happy with the Lionesses. I've been sent a video, which I believe is from Sky News, and a Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones MBE commenting about the lack of racial diversity with England's football team. And essentially, the point he was making is, do we need more diversity in the game, in the beautiful game, as it were? So let's listen to what he said.
What jumps out of you is that this doesn't sort of represent diverse Britain. It's all these blonde, blue-eyed girls, and I wish them well, but I do think we need to ask ourselves questions about why is it that we've got it has a lack of diversity.
They're playing sport at an elite level, and they are from Britain, and they're women.
It doesn't make any difference. I think if the whole idea behind this is going to encourage more women to go and into the sport, you need some sort of representation there to say, whatever background you come from, you could get to this sort of level.
Because it's
Britain
important,
doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and it's so important when you speak to these little girls that they see someone that they can relate to.
Exactly. It makes such a difference. That little girl might then end up playing football because she's seen someone who looks like her.
But it doesn't detract.
It's fashionable to knock men, but if this was a man, it would be...
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. So on a general level, diversity is a good thing. On a general level, speaking broad stroke, diversity is great. And diversity on all fronts, not just racial diversity. It would be very odd if you only thought racial diversity was a good thing. Diversity enriches society, having people, from different walks of life with different perspectives, that's always going to be a good thing. I do think we get involved in a race to the bottom, though, when the first thing that jumps out to us about anything is the race of the people. So he talks about diversity. Well, in that team, there is diversity. There's sexual diversity or sexuality diversity. There's people there who are bisexual, gay, straight. So that's diversity. Why is it the racial diversity that he says that's what we need more of? I guess I take the broader point that when you're younger, seeing people who look like you is going to be helpful. But then how deep do you want to dial that down? So if you're asexual, do you need to know that someone's asexual on the team to want to play football? If you're gay, do you need to see a gay football player to know that it's okay to be gay and play football? If you're black, if you're Turkish, how kind of down do you want to sort of run, as it were? And the reason why it's, for me, quite interesting that that's the first thing that jumped out to him is because I don't think it would be the case for every single sport. So here's a picture of some of the sort of key British athletic figures that I found, right? Now, when you take a look at this picture, do you look at them and go, they're all black? We need more white people in here. How are white people going to, know that they can sprint and run if they don't see white people? I mean, it would be kind of silly to see things that way. And again, if you look at the men's game in football, generally speaking, it's not an all-white sort of team. So the notion that this might be because of some systemic issue or somehow women are being pushed out, I don't know. I don't want to say it isn't, but I think it's very hard to make the case from seeing the picture that it's definitely that. And the reason why there aren't more black people in the team is because of some sort of racism or these sort of things. I think we've got to be careful about taking every experience and distilling it down to the races that are represented. I just think we've got to do more than that. I know a lot of black people who were inspired by seeing the Lionesses and who didn't even notice that, quote unquote, in that picture in the sun, there was only white people on there. Likewise, a lot of people who cheer on our athletics team and don't go, but where's the black sprinters? There's no black sprinters. There's no white sprinters. You kind of assume that in sport, you know, the best people typically will be the folks, you know, representing us. Is that the case all the time? No. But generally speaking, I do think it's the case that the best people tend to rise to the top. Football is a game that, you know, folks who run football, they want to win. They want to win. And we've seen many Premier League teams buy in players from all around the world on their quest to win. I'm not saying we only want white players here or anything like that. But again, we should make this moment about the success of the Lionesses, how amazing their performance was, and how they've literally just empowered so many people.